All right, guys, got some breaking news here for you. So, SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, has officially been found guilty on roughly 12,000 crimes. So, here, let me read them out for you. I'm exaggerating, of course, but not by much. 7 counts of wire fraud, securities fraud, and money laundering. Basically, he swindled the customers of FTX, which was his crypto exchange, and funneled the money to Alameda Research, which was his hedge fund, where they proceeded to steal everybody's stuff. So, I mean, this makes me happy.
Yeah.
It's good news. It makes me happy that there's actually some justice in the world. So he's facing up to 110 years in prison. Sentencing is going to happen on March 28th. And then he also faces in March another trial on charges of bribing foreign officials and other counts as well on top of that.
Wow.
Yeah. So you followed this stuff pretty closely.
I did. I didn't follow the trial that closely. I intended to, but then a war, Hamas decided to do what they did, and Israel decided to do what they did. So I haven't been able to follow the trial that closely, but I followed the crimes very closely. And part of what was so remarkable about this particular fall from grace is just that he was like the crypto golden boy. And he really intentionally marketed and branded himself as like the good guy of crypto, and was incredibly, he got himself deep into the DC cocktail circuits and knew all these people and was funding their campaigns.
Funded Democrats and Republicans.
Testifying before Congress. But, the way he positioned himself, he mostly publicly funded the Democrats and secretly funded the Republicans.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because again, that was part of his good guy image. He was this, effective altruist, quote unquote. The media ate up this guy as the boy wonder, genius, et cetera, et cetera. And so then when the shit hit the fan, it was just such an incredible fall from the heights that he'd been at. And effectively, for people who don't remember the details here, he had this crypto exchange, FTX, which, people put their money in and they expect their money to be there to do with whatever they want. And he was stealing that money to fund the really risky bets that they were making over at Alameda. And once this started to unravel, then there was effectively a run on the bank of FTX. Everybody started pulling their funds out, or trying to pull their funds out, but there were wildly insufficient funds in order to meet the need. So that's how the whole thing came crashing down. Another, interesting side note, I saw Matt Binder pointing this out, is there was a lot of he funded Democrats, so he's never going to face accountability, et cetera, et cetera.
Elon said that too.
Elon said it specifically, but
there won't even be an investigation because this guy funds Democrats.
Well, and I think it's quite the opposite.
Got anything to say now, you fucking freak bitch?
Right. They'll never admit they were wrong. But I also always thought it was quite the opposite. He embarrassed these people, so they are going to come after him for all he's worth. The other thing is, the result doesn't really surprise me because his ex-girlfriend, Caroline,
flipped,
who was running Alameda, she flipped and was cooperating. Some of his other top-level executives at the time, they also flipped and they'd been cooperating. There was no oversight of this thing. They had him dead to rights in terms of the internal communications, et cetera. So it is not surprising to me in the least that this is the verdict that's returned.
Well, it's a little surprising to me because usually billionaires and people with this amount of fame and clout and power, usually there's no accountability. But I guess since crypto is relatively new, there's an element of new money to it. And so these people were just letting the club 2.5 seconds ago. So they were kicked out of the club immediately after.
Yeah.
Because the face was ripped off of it or the mask was ripped off of it. The question is, what's going to happen now with all these other crypto billionaires who are involved in similar scams? Remember the NFT craze, which lasted for 7.5 minutes?
Yeah.
And then everybody was hold on, why are you telling me that this picture of a shitty cartoon monkey is worth $750,000? That sounds kind of fake.
Yeah.
And then that went away.
Yeah.
And then, but what's going to happen with a bunch of these other crypto billionaires who probably are involved in similar shenanigans but just haven't been caught yet?
Well, when you have an industry that is basically the wild, wild west, fly by the seat of your pants, unregulated, etc., of course it's going to attract the biggest charlatans and grifters are going to be the ones that rise to the top. So it's not an accident that you have, SBF, that you've had so many of these scams, rug pulls, outright theft, evading authorities, dodging like everything you can imagine going on in this space, because it just was this completely wide open, unregulated situation. And then you also have the fact that at bottom crypto was like a Ponzi scheme, ultimately a pyramid scheme, effectively. So the whole thing is kind of built on a con to begin with.
What was up with that? The guy who wrote the book, Michael Lewis was his name?
Yeah.
He wrote a book that was like fawning about SBF, and he just recently wrote an article that was like fawning about him.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, do you realize that this is the most embarrassing thing anybody's ever done?
Yeah.
He's going down 2.5 seconds later, and you're out there like, no, he actually is a genius.
Well, the thing that is so weird. I mean, Michael Lewis, he's done great other work. And so that's why people were like, really on this one? But apparently what happened is he came into profiling and writing this book about SBF when he still was on his hero arc. And so that was Michael's...
Yeah, but you had enough time to change it.
I know. So that was his whole framing of the book, was like, oh, this unlikely hero. And he bought all the way into the like boy genius. And oh my God, he's like playing video games while he's talking to Anna Wintour, and he doesn't even know what she's saying. And isn't he so genius and amazing and eccentric and whatever. And when this all hit the fan, I guess the book was like mostly written. He was unable in his mind mentally to completely adjust the frame.
No, he drank the Kool-Aid. He actually believes in Sam Bankman. Like, he thinks this is a travesty that he was found guilty, even though the evidence was absolutely overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, he even said that he thought his book would be vindicating for Sam, and that it would be, vindicating is my word. He said it would be more useful to Sam's defense than to the prosecution. So he was aware that it was like a favorable spin on Sam Bankman-Fried, but I think just like, I mean, he's also, Michael Lewis is like very entrenched on Wall Street. They all know him.
Yeah, that's part of the problem,
love him.
right? Like all these hucksters.
He really did sort of just like buy the Kool-Aid.
Drank the Kool-Aid.
Whatever.
Bought the Kool-Aid. He bought and drank the Kool-Aid. He did both of them.
He drank it. He liked it.
He pissed it out.
With it.
And then he drank his own piss after that to double drink the Kool-Aid. The piss Kool-Aid. After he bought it and drank
That's
it. And
how
then pissed
much
it out.
he loves Sam Bankman-Fried. Like, that just tells you.
And shout out to CoffeeZilla. Didn't CoffeeZilla cover this?
He was early to the, like, this is all a fraud.
Well, remember when he, like, didn't SBF kind of admit in an interview, like, yeah, this is kind of like legal fraud.
He did.
Didn't he say something like that?
I wish I could remember. I think he basically admitted that it was like a Ponzi scheme, didn't he?
Yeah, that might have been it. But also, like, I don't know whether it was FTX or Alameda, but one of them created their own coin and then said, this is worth X amount of money. And it added, like, billions of dollars more to how much they were worth. And it's just like, and he kind of admitted, like, yeah, this is, we just kind of make it up. And people, again, it was amazing to be in the peak of the NFT craze and the peak of the crypto craze. It's like, you guys don't realize that if something seems too good to be true, if it sounds a little sketchy, that, like, it 100% is that. Like, do people not realize that?
Yeah, well, and I think part of what happened is so much of Alameda, the hedge fund's balance sheet, like the assets they had were this coin that was just like invented and worth whatever Sam decided it was worth. And so that was part of when that realization hit, is part of when the bank run started and unraveling started to occur, if memory serves correctly.
Because that other crypto guy kind of pulled the rug out from underneath him, right?
Yeah, the Binance
CZ
dude.
or whatever his name is.
Yeah, who also is a crook, by the way.
Did he testify? Did Sam Bankman-Fried testify and shit the bed? I feel like I may have read some headlines about that.
I'm pretty sure that he did, yeah. And then the other thing people were talking about, the one thing that like really hit pop culture, is the courtroom drawings.
Yeah, the guy made him look like a Greek god, and it's like, did you pay off the courtroom?
And made his girlfriend, Caroline, ex-girlfriend, look so bad.
To be fair, she kind of already looked.
But this was like, even listen, she's not particularly like, whatever in that department, but they were doing her dirty, even given what they had to work with. And then Sam, they made him look like some like you said, Greek god, male model, whatever.
It was so weird. What is it about this guy that, like, with some people he comes across, they just are cast by his spell?
I don't know.
That's not the way you would say that. Cast by his spell? Let's go back to talking about
This
drinking
is clearly
piss.
it's 10 p.m.
It's way
clearly
too
past
late.
our
It's
bedtime.
way too late. Yeah, we're
Anyway,
too old for this.
Good luck
Anyway,
in jail, Sam Bankman-Fried.
yeah, wild story. I'm actually genuinely happy that there's actually some justice in the world. And I mean, he's facing up to 110 years in prison. Whatever the number ends up being, it's going to be probably the rest of his life. You know, I don't know if he'll
I
be
don't
eligible
know.
for parole at any point.
No
right?
idea. No
But,
idea what they'll throw at him, but
But
this is not the way he saw things going for himself. I
Yeah.
can tell you that.
rest in piss, loser.